What's good, my man of society? It is your host with the most, Shadowlog, back at you with another video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. That is how you and my channel get into the algorithm. Highly appreciate if you go ahead and do that. Now, what I wanted to discuss was actually something that I've been getting asked, for quite some time. As of recent, more because I'm assuming because of the topic and how a lot of people are discussing it, right? And it's been brought to my attention, by one of my subscribers, Deshpo, who had said that apparently I was mentioned on a live that yesterday that Gunner and Dubs did, right? And so a few things were said. I never get triggered or bothered by the internet or YouTube, right, or people's opinions. That's all they are, merely people's opinions. YouTube, it's not that serious. Nothing to get worked up over, right? Especially when we're discussing or debating, disagreeing, right? Um, you know, we're civil, we're adults all right here, right? See, I don't get offended and I don't get triggered, so I don't need to go calling them out a name or making fun of the way they look or talk or, childish games, right? Distractions, right? When people don't have any facts, when people don't have any concrete uh, um, opinions, right? They tend to attack individuals' appearance, uh, defects that they may have, and then insults, calling people out of name, like children, like how a little kid would act when they're lashing out. So those all those distractions don't work, right? Because they truly don't home in on what was being asked, right? So according to Dubs said that I'm selective politicking. And no, I am not selective politicking. The reason I am not selective politicking is that this is not prison. This is not the streets. This has nothing to do with no, uh, group, organization, nothing like that. This is merely having a discussion on people's morals and characters, truth and lies. That's all it is. Nothing to do with the street world or nothing like that. When it comes to why I choose to uh, disagree with individuals or why we are how can our views just don't line up, right? It has nothing to do with the street codes and the street world. It's crazy that individuals who are not about that life no more or who are grown up now and don't no longer care about that keep making that world relevant to what's going on right here, right? Like still trying to attach that it's because of selective politicking or it's because of the gangster. When nobody's talking about none of that. We're merely talking about being honest and lying. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with no selective politicking because there's no politics, going on right here. So it's like I don't understand why individuals choose to try to keep making stuff street related and gang related. They said that they enjoy my stuff except when um, I go in on them and I hate on them. I've never hated on anybody. Anything I have ever said was because these are the facts, evidence, real facts. I've never came and called them out of their names or said that they're gay or lames or you know what I mean. I merely just spoke on the truth, what's out there, facts. Now you can't be mad at me for speaking the truth and facts. I could understand if I was coming in, calling them out of their names and insulting them, but why would I do that? It's not what I do here. I don't do internet beefs. That's why like I don't beef with channels. It's not what it is. Um, so I didn't understand that point of view from their breakdown, right? Another thing that was said is that you know Gunner said that I interviewed him, right, and that you know I guess I was cool with him before, and now all of a sudden, I switched up or whatever. And that in itself, when he said that he's just being honest and truthful, was a lie in itself. And and the reason why we know it's a lie in itself is because he repeats the lie as he's talking about it. He said he had talked to his people, meaning me, and cleared him because he said on his red on red, and it's not his politics. Facts. And it's the lie that keeps getting repeated over and over again. He is no good because he did red on red. But that's not the reason why you're no good. We are aware of why that is now, right? But like I said, when we first started YouTube, we didn't know much about these individuals. Why would we think individuals were, it was not in our place to even, dive into all of that. You get what I'm saying? Now, it has been now put out there of the real reason why the individual is no good. You know, we know that the individual, there's paperwork on him. He snitched. And this is not me, speculating, making up stuff, because Gunner himself has made a video where he talked about that, yes, he did snitch. And yes, that's the stuff that Dreamer from Fresno came and said is true. And that video got a bunch of views, so I know a lot of people watched it. Right? Now, the video's been taken down or whatever the hell, or I don't know what he did with the video, right? Which is crazy in itself, because you made a video and you're gonna pretend like you never made that video, right? Which makes you wonder, them calling all these people snitches, and how they make it seem if people who cooperated are just bad people and they're informants, but they have cooperated. Especially he does when he's like, and I never work with law enforcement, so fuck those who say that. Hey, bro, you can be in denial, but what about your co-host? It's the same thing, right? And like I said, the paperwork on Gunner it's been put out there. The guy Dreamer himself has came on here and has talked about how he got more time because of Gunner, how Gunner snitched on him. So it's not he said, she said. He's the one that put the black and white out there. Because it was his case, right? He's the one that told on him. You get what I mean? And like I said, Gunner admitted to it. Why he's playing pretend and like he never did that or never said that. And we already know how the street game is. Once you snitch, there's no coming back. People don't forgive snitches. You don't get a second chance. People may not like that or may disagree. See it however you want, but in the street world, that's how it works. Once you snitch, you're no good. He snitched when he was in juvenile hall. So how could he have a career as a G if he was already no good when he was already in YA? And there's been multiple individuals that have came and confirmed this information. No one has ever came to stamp Gunner stories. As a matter of fact, the opposite has happened. Right? So we now know why he really wasn't no good, right? It wasn't because it's red on red. It was because he told. You get what I mean? And like I said, the fact that he lied, and while doing the live, he's lying still, right? He's like, oh yeah, because it was on red. It's not his politics. But that's not why though, bro. It was because you snitched. Now we know the truth. You get what I mean? But I have never denied that we did an interview. I never tried to hide it or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I have always, yeah, I did interview him. Yeah, I was cool with him. Yeah, we would chop it up. That's how I know the individual what I'm talking about. The only reason why I took down the video, whatever, is because the video where I interviewed him was one of my top videos. It had the most views, and I was gaining a bunch of subscribers. But once I found out the truth, right, I took it upon myself to take the video down because I didn't want to gain subscribers like that. I didn't want to gain viewers or subscribers with a lie. Even though the video was, bringing me views and I didn't want to get it that way. I have morals, bro, that I stand on. Principles I believe in. Yeah, I know other people would choose the other route, because they just care about the viewerships and the numbers. But nah, bro. I'd rather have 0 views and 0 subscribers, but sticking to my morals than, turning the cheek and, letting go of my morals just to gain viewership. Nah, it's not how we work. You get what I mean? And he said another thing. He said, oh, for his 400 views, that's 40 something cents. Come on, See, that's the difference between me and the individual. He cares about money and all that. I don't get paid for YouTube. I'm not a part of the partner program. That's why you don't see on the bottom, thank you or donate, or I don't get paid for YouTube, on the channel, the other channel, right? Because we're merely here to have conversation, just to have, conversations. It's not about the money with me. I have proved that many of times where I have, showed people. And it's not to try to, that makes me more solid or whatever. It's just that's because it's the truth. You know what I mean? Like, not because, we're trying to, spin some narrative. It's just that, well, why are we going to say something that is if it's not true, though? Like, I don't get paid for YouTube because that's what it is, you know? And I'm only on here to have conversations and just to chill and interact, because that's what we're here for. We're not here to uplift people and for the raza and make change and everything. That would be a lie if I was to come on here and to say all that shit, because I know that that's not true. That doesn't mean that we're here to spread negativity or to corrupt and pollute youth minds. But we're just merely here to have conversations. That's it. Talk. Now, like I said, and I speak my mind. So it's not about me hating on people or stamping other people. I just merely come and speak my opinions, my mind. These are just what they are, my thoughts, my mind, my opinions. Not here to be liked, not here to make enemies. We're just here to chop it up and speak our minds. That's it. They think that I have some kind of vendetta or hatred towards them. That would be the case. I would be calling them out of their names and making all kinds of videos on them. Like, my channel has all kinds of videos. You only find maybe like about 4 or 5 videos on these individuals. And that's merely because of my subscribers asking me the questions that they're asking. They support my channel. The least I can do is answer their questions, right? And give my opinions on what they're asking. So I don't understand why they get, all offended, like, well, I'm not the one lying, so I don't know why you're mad at me for. You can only be mad at the lies. You can't be mad at the person telling the facts, And that in itself proves that the individual is not truthful, because he's saying that he's not lying. But you are lying. Not about the interview part and all of that, but you're lying about, yes, you said red on red, when that's not the case. You snitched. There's black and white. You confessed to it. You did a video on your channel. So how am I the one that's lying? Now you're trying to pretend like that never happened and stuff like that, but I mean, the evidence is out there. You know what I mean? Not that hard to find. As a matter of fact, you can find a bunch of videos, where they throw the paperwork out there. So they can be in denial because they still want to be seen as gangster or tough or someone that's down for business or handle business. I don't care about none of that. I don't care if people think I'm tough or not. It's just irrelevant. None of that gangster shit belongs on the internet either way. That's why I don't come and discuss it. That's why I don't come and, glorify it and talk and brag. We know what it is, bro. We know, where the gangster stuff stays. We're not out here trying to convince people that we G's and stuff like that. People could think what they want. It's irrelevant. You get what I'm saying? So the whole selective politicking, like I said, it didn't make any sense because, this has nothing to do with politics. You get what I mean? And like I have said, people before used to like Michael Jackson's music until everything came out on him, right? People like Bill Cosby until what we know now. People used to, like SPM's music until what happened. You know what I mean? So it's not that hard to see why people's opinions on somebody could change when the truth comes out. So yes, we used to mess with individuals' channels. We thought individuals were cool. But now that we know what we know, our views just don't line up. And like I said, we just come and spit the facts because subscribers ask. It's not because I'm trying to get people to not watch their channel or unsubscribe. I don't lose any sleep. I don't lose hours at my job. It doesn't affect me in my life and what I have going on. So to me, it's irrelevant. I'm just answering the subscribers' questions. That's it. By merely coming speaking facts. That's why when people ask me stuff that I don't know on them, I tell them, well, I don't know. Like, oh, I heard this, I heard that. Like, well, I don't know. Like I said, I may disagree with the individuals and I may not be fond of them, but I'm not going to make up shit about them either. I only speak on what I know. Well, yes, I have said that they told because there's black and white on them. They're no good because they're no good. That's not me hating. Those are the facts. Why they're in denial? That's a question you would have to ask them. Why they keep repeating a different lie. Like, it's because it was red on red. No, it's because you told. Why he refuses to admit that part and still stick to this story, I have no idea. There's been a lot of Northerners that have came and, He said that he was no good since the youth authority. I don't know. And like I said, the black and white, lines up with these individuals' stories. So who's the one that's really lying, my guy? Come on now. And like I said, it's not to hate on these individuals. That's why I keep it respectful. I don't call them out of their name. We merely come and speak facts. Nothing more, nothing less. But overall, that's just my breakdown on the matter. Shadowy out.